The Zurich Prime Coliseum did not merely hold spectators, it swallowed them. Tier upon tier of floating galleries curved around a central ring large enough to swallow cities. Energy barriers shimmered above the arena floor, refracting alien light into violent colors. Tens of billions watched live across the coalition, but those present were the loudest. They always were. Laughter rolled through the stands like a storm front. On the central holofeed, a commentator with 3 eyes and a silver cranial crest leaned toward his console. And now, he announced, amusement leaking into every syllable, the newest addition to the Galactic Convergence Games. Species designation human. The word triggered fresh noise, mocking clicks, hisses, ultrasonic trills of amusement. Visual overlays bloomed across the air, skeletal scans, muscle density comparisons, reaction time charts. Against the towering metrics of veteran warrior races, the human figures looked thin, fragile, bipedal. No exoskeleton. No claws, another commentator chimed in. An emotional species, by all verified data. Remarkable they survived long enough to invent faster-than-light travel. In the diplomatic section, the human delegation remained seated. No one spoke. They had learned already that protest only fed the spectacle. The gates opened. 6 humans entered the arena. They wore standard-issue combat suits, practical, unadorned, built for function rather than intimidation. They moved in formation, alert but restrained, eyes scanning the terrain. Their leader raised a fist, the signal to halt. For a moment they stood still, dwarfed by the scale of the ring and the roar of alien amusement. Odds are posted, the first commentator said, flicking a clawed digit. 1 to 7,000. A ripple of anticipation ran through the stands. Predators leaned forward. Cameras zoomed. From the opposite gate, the opposing team emerged. They were massive, chitinous plates layered over dense muscle, natural blades flexing as they moved. Each footstep cracked the arena floor. They spread out, not bothering with formation. Confidence radiated from them, heavy and unquestioned. The signal sounded. The fight lasted 93 seconds. It was not a contest. It was an execution stretched just long enough to be entertaining. Humans were thrown, crushed, pinned. One was sent skidding across the arena, armor sparking as it tore open. Another went down hard and did not rise again. Medical drones hovered, then hesitated. The crowd demanded blood. When it ended, only one human remained conscious, kneeling beside a fallen teammate. He looked up once, eyes blazing with something the scanners couldn't classify. Then a heavy limb struck him down. The arena erupted. Glorious! The second commentator laughed. They break so easily. In the upper tiers, Elias Kale did not react. He stood alone, hands clasped behind his back, gaze steady on the scorched arena floor. He had seen worse. Earth had not fought its wars in clean arenas with cheering crowds. Earth had learned to lose slowly. A coalition official approached, wings folded tight in discomfort. Captain Kale, it said, voice modulated into something approximating politeness. Given the results, your delegation may wish to withdraw. Continued participation risks reputational consequences. Kale did not look away from the ring. Is withdrawal mandatory? No. But advisable. Then we stay. The official hesitated. There will be no mercy. Kale finally turned. His expression was calm, unreadable. There never is. Below, the arena crews cleared the bodies with clinical efficiency. The next bout was already being prepared. Humanity had been scheduled as filler, something to amuse the crowd between real matches. The announcer's voice boomed again. Next exhibition. Wait. The word cut through the broadcast channel, carried by Kale's personal identifier. For a heartbeat, even the crowd seemed uncertain. The announcer blinked. Clarify, human. Kale stepped forward to the edge of the delegation platform. His voice carried without force, precise and controlled. By Coalition Charter, Subsection 9, Article 4. Any member species may request single combat representation to determine standing. Silence crept outward. The commentators exchanged glances. That clause is archaic. But valid, Kale replied. A murmur rippled through the stands, curiosity replacing mockery. The arena lights shifted. You volunteer? The announcer asked. Yes. Laughter surged again, louder than before. From the champion's gate, a shadow moved. Massive. Deliberate. The crowd's tone changed as recognition spread. High Champion Vraxthal emerged. He stood taller than the others, his forearms flexing as armored plates slid into place. Scars traced his hide like trophies. He tilted his head, eyes locking onto the small human figure far above. A single human, Vrax rumbled, his voice amplified across the arena. Against me? Kale met his gaze without flinching. Against you. Vrax's mandibles parted in something resembling a grin. Very well. I accept. The galaxy could use a reminder. The arena detonated with sound. Betting markets spiked. Drones swarmed. Commentators shouted over one another, delight thick in their voices. An honor, really, one sneered. To be crushed personally. Kale turned away from the noise. He walked toward the preparation corridors, boots echoing against polished alloy. Behind him, laughter followed like a tide. He did not hurry. For the first time since humanity's name had been spoken in the arena, the outcome was no longer certain. And that, more than anything, unsettled the galaxy. The preparation chamber was silent in a way the arena never allowed. No crowds. No commentary. Only a steady hum of systems older than most civilizations. Elias Kale stood at the center of the room while pale blue light traced his body, mapping bone density, muscle tension, neural response. Symbols scrolled across the air, translating him into numbers. A trio of coalition medics watched from behind a transparent field. Their expressions were clinical, almost bored. Cardiovascular capacity, one said, adjusting a lens over its multifaceted eye. Inferior. Pain response, another added. Excessively pronounced. Likely to induce panic. Kale remained still, breathing slow, shoulders relaxed. The scans finished with a soft chime. Conclusion, the lead medic said. Subject unsuitable for prolonged combat. Kale met its gaze. You're not wrong. That earned a pause. The medic tilted its head. Clarify. We're not built for arenas, Kale replied. We're built for survival. The answer was logged without comment. As technicians fitted his combat harness, Kale's thoughts drifted far from Xeric Prime. He remembered ruined streets back home, the smell of burning concrete, the long nights where retreat meant death and holding the line meant worse. Humans had learned early that strength was a resource that ran out quickly. Endurance lasted longer. A door slid open across the corridor. High Champion Vraxthal's chamber was the opposite of Kale's. Bright. Loud. Surrounded by attendants polishing armor that didn't need polishing. The champion himself stood relaxed, letting handlers secure ceremonial plating. His confidence filled the space. Is it true, Vrax said lazily, that humans lack secondary hearts? Yes, an aide replied. Vrax laughed, deep and pleased. How inefficient. Back in Kale's chamber, a junior medic approached hesitantly. Smaller than the others. Less certain. Human, it said, lowering its voice. Your species could withdraw. Even now. Kale shook his head. If we do, this is how they'll remember us. The medic hesitated. You understand the champion has never lost. Kale gave a thin smile. Everyone has, eventually. The medic stepped back, unsettled. Outside, the arena feeds were already dissecting Kale's scan results. Commentators replayed them with amusement, magnifying every perceived weakness. No natural armor. Limited reach. Emotion-driven. The crowd drank it in. When the call came, Kale walked alone through the corridor leading to the arena gate. The sound grew with every step. Mockery, anticipation, hunger. He stopped before the closed barrier, resting his forehead briefly against the cool metal. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of failing quietly. The gates opened. Light flooded in, blinding for a heartbeat. The noise hit next, crashing over him in waves. Kale stepped forward, boots striking the arena floor with a dull, human sound. Across the ring, Vrax waited, arms spread slightly, posture relaxed. He looked down at Kale with open curiosity. "So small," Vrax said, voice carrying easily. "Do you feel brave, little mammal?" Kale rolled his shoulders once. "I feel focused." The champion chuckled. "Admirable delusion." Above them, the announcer's voice boomed. "Combatants ready." Kale planted his feet, eyes never leaving Vrax. He noted the way the champion shifted weight, the subtle tension in one leg, the pattern of breathing. Monsters, Kale had learned, still followed rules. Vrax leaned closer, lowering his voice. "When this ends, your kind will be remembered for entertainment. You should be honored." Kale looked up. "We're used to being underestimated." The signal sounded. For a fraction of a second, nothing moved. Then Vrax advanced, the ground trembling beneath his stride. Kale did not charge. He waited, muscles coiled, mind clear. The first strike came like a meteor, and Kale moved just enough to survive it. Pain flared, sharp and immediate. He welcomed it. Pain meant he was still standing. Somewhere above, laughter faltered. The fight had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn something it had never measured. The first impact stole the breath from Kale's lungs and hurled him across the arena. He skidded along the stone, armor screaming, before crashing into the barrier wall. The crowd roared approval. Vrax did not rush. He never rushed. He advanced with the patience of something that had never needed urgency. Kale pushed himself upright, air burning through his chest. His vision sharpened as adrenaline flooded in, the pain receding into something manageable. He rolled his shoulders once, testing damage. One rib cracked. Maybe two. Acceptable. "Still moving," a commentator said, surprised. "Curious." Vrax lunged again. The second blow came lower, a sweeping strike meant to shatter legs. Kale jumped too late. The impact snapped him off his feet and slammed him down hard. Bones screamed. The crowd laughed louder. "Stay down," Vrax said, almost kindly. "This is mercy." Kale spat blood onto the arena floor and forced himself up. "You'll have to do better." The champion's eyes narrowed. Vrax attacked in earnest then, a storm of mass and momentum. Each strike carried enough force to kill lesser fighters outright. Kale absorbed what he could not avoid, redirected what he could not absorb, and moved when movement was possible. He learned quickly. Vrax favored his upper right arm when enraged. His left leg lagged a fraction after heavy swings. Small flaws. Enough. Kale waited for openings that lasted less than a heartbeat. The first counter-strike landed against Vrax's knee joint. Not powerful. Precise. The champion stumbled half a step, more startled than hurt. The arena sound shifted, confusion rippling outward. Vrax snarled and backhanded Kale into the ground. "Look!" Kale rolled with the blow, and came up inside the champion's reach. He drove his elbow into a soft seam beneath armored plating, then twisted away before retaliation could land. The hit did nothing visible. It did everything necessary. Vrax slowed. Medical telemetry spiked across the displays. Human pain indicators exceeded known thresholds. Commentators leaned forward, voices dropping. "He should be unconscious." Kale felt the edge of it creeping in, the darkness tugging at the corners of his vision. He refused it. Earth had taught him that surrender arrived before death if allowed. He kept moving. Vrax's strikes grew heavier, less controlled. Rage crept into his movements, eroding efficiency. Kale exploited it. He let himself be thrown, rolled through the impact, rose again. Each time, the crowd's laughter thinned. "Why don't you break?" Vrax demanded, slamming Kale down once more. Kale coughed, dragged himself upright, and met the champion's gaze. "Because we don't quit." Another exchange. Close now. Brutal. Kale used Vrax's mass against him, pulling, turning, forcing overextension. The champion struck Kale full in the chest, lifting him clear off the ground. Something tore inside. Kale hit hard and lay still. Silence crept in. Vrax turned away, raising his arms to the crowd. Enough. Kale moved. He surged up and drove himself into Vrax's side, ramming shoulder into joint, fingers locking onto a ridge of armor. The champion staggered, shocked. Kale twisted, using leverage instead of strength, and felt something give. Vrax roared, a sound of disbelief and fury. He struck Kale point blank, smashing him into the ground again. Kale barely registered the impact. His world narrowed to breath, timing, survival. The crowd was quiet now. Vrax loomed over him. I will end this. Energy surged along the champion's arms, a lethal technique banned in lesser matches and permitted only by reputation. Arena officials hesitated. Then allowed it. Kale saw it coming. He could not escape it. He planted his feet anyway. The strike landed like a collapsing star. Kale felt himself break. Felt heat. Then darkness brushed close enough to taste. Somewhere distant, alarms screamed. And still he stood. He swayed, vision blurred, blood running freely now. But he stood. Vrax stared, something like fear flickering across his alien features. Impossible. Kale lifted his head, eyes steady despite everything. You measured us wrong. The arena held its breath. Vrax drew back for the final blow, fury overriding caution. Kale waited. The galaxy watched a human refuse to fall, and for the first time, no one laughed. The arena did not roar when Vrax raised his arms for the final strike. It waited. Energy crawled across the champion's limbs, lighting the scars along his hide. This was not technique meant for spectacle. It was designed for certainty. Vrax stepped forward, every movement deliberate, confident that the next moment would erase the anomaly standing before him. Kale felt the world narrowing again. His body screamed for collapse, muscles trembling under their own weight. Blood blurred his sight, but his mind remained clear, almost cold. He had nothing left to give except timing. Vrax lunged. Kale moved at the same instant. He did not dodge. He stepped into the attack. The champion's blow tore past where Kale's head had been a fraction of a second earlier. Kale drove forward, using Vrax's momentum as a weapon, shoulder slamming into the exposed joint he had been testing since the first exchange. Bone cracked. The sound carried. Vrax staggered, stunned more by the audacity than the damage. Kale stayed close. He wrapped an arm around the champion's upper limb, twisted, and dropped his weight. Not strength, leverage. Earth physics applied without mercy. Vrax roared and tried to wrench free. Kale held on, teeth clenched, vision dimming. He felt something tear in his own shoulder but refused to let go. He shifted his footing, braced against the arena floor, and drove his knee upward into the vulnerable seam beneath the champion's armor. The impact landed true. Vrax's legs buckled. For the first time in recorded arena history, the high champion fell to one knee. A ripple of disbelief swept through the stands. No cheers. No laughter. Only the low, spreading sound of realization. Vrax lashed out blindly, striking Kale across the side. The blow sent Kale rolling, his grip breaking at last. He hit the ground hard and stayed there, breath gone, consciousness flickering. Vrax struggled upright, movements no longer smooth. Stay down, he hissed, voice fractured by pain. Stay down and be forgotten. Kale's fingers dug into the stone. He forced air into ruined lungs and pushed himself up. Every motion felt borrowed. Not today, he said, voice hoarse but steady. Vrax charged, rage burning away what little caution remained. Kale watched him come, counting steps, waiting for the inevitable overreach. When it happened, Kale sidestepped and planted his foot behind the champion's injured leg. Vrax stumbled. Kale struck once, short, precise, everything he had left poured into it. His fist connected beneath the jawline, at the junction of nerve and structure no armor fully protected. The champion's momentum carried him forward, off balance, unable to recover. Vrax hit the arena floor face first. The impact shook the ring. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Medical alarms screamed across the displays. Arena officials froze, stunned by what they were seeing. The commentators were silent, mouths open, words failing them. Kale stood over the fallen champion, swaying but upright. He waited. Seconds passed. Vrax did not rise. A signal chimed. "Combat concluded," the announcer said slowly, disbelief heavy in every syllable. The arena remained silent. Kale took a step back as medics flooded the ring, surrounding both fighters. One knelt beside Vrax, scanning rapidly. Another reached Kale and stopped short, staring. "You're alive," it said, stunned. Kale nodded once. "For now." Coalition officials descended, their earlier amusement replaced with something closer to unease. A senior adjudicator raised its voice, amplified across the arena. "By confirmed victory under Charter Law, humanity's combat standing is hereby reassessed." The words echoed, unreal. "Species classification updated, resilient combatant. Coalition status affirmed." A murmur spread, growing, not into applause but into something heavier. Respect. The kind earned only through suffering witnessed. In the human delegation, shoulders slumped as tension finally released. No one cheered. They simply breathed. Kale's legs gave out then. Medics caught him before he hit the ground, lowering him gently onto a stretcher. As they lifted him, he glanced once more at the vast arena, at the countless eyes now watching him differently. The laughter was gone. As he was carried toward the exit, one of the commentators finally found its voice. "The human did not overpower the champion," it said softly. "He endured him." Kale allowed himself a small, tired smile before darkness claimed him. Behind him, the Zurich Prime Coliseum stood quiet, a monument to a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Humans did not need to be the strongest. They only needed to keep standing,